In the heart of the West, a vast landscape awaits the dawn. The warming sun reveals high peaks and broad valleys, stretching, it seems, to infinity. Air pungent with sagebrush and pines. An enormous place, rich with the intricate gifts of nature. An ancient landscape, still living. Like nowhere else, the Great Basin spans a singular continuum of time and space.
There are certain emotions and feelings that it's almost like they dwell here, and I have to come back to them here. When I drive into this country, tears come.
It's a strange thing about the Great Basin that as vast as it is, as far as you can see, as dramatic as parts of it are, it doesn't feel as though you're diminished. It feels as though you are in a natural world where you belong.
I think that this is farther from a big city, farther from an interstate than almost anywhere in the country.
To me, caves hold a really special place, and they have a different feeling than just being on the surface. It's almost like walking into a church.
My family can trace back to my great-great-grandfather. Our family has lived here forever.
The Great Basin stretches from Utah's Wasatch Mountains to the Sierra Nevada in California, in one endless reach of mountain ranges and wide valleys. At the center of this immense region, in the South Snake Range, Great Basin National Park protects the jewels of this country. Some of its highest mountains, its most spectacular caves, and some of the oldest trees on Earth. This dramatic landscape holds special meaning for those who visit and return again and again.
The Great Basin is a place of great space. You can see for long distances. It's a place that has very little human development in it of a large scale. The Great Basin is a place where the natural world is the primary world.
How about that beautiful dead trumpet?
I know. Beautiful. Yeah. There's an ability to listen to natural sounds that is rare. You can hear the wings of a bird fly overhead. You can hear the sound of the wind in the trees. It's really the basic connection to life, to water, to air, to earth.
The Great Basin is a dry land, where hardy desert plants often endure months without rain. The arid heat of summer is broken by violent thunderstorms, dropping much-needed moisture to the parched earth below. water also wells up in rare springs across the Great Basin. The Shoshone, one of the region's first peoples, have always cherished this precious gift.
In the Shoshone spiritual beliefs and culture, earth, water, and air are intertwined, and water is sacred. But particularly this spring, the water has a spirit, and we're taught to give acknowledgement and thanks for the life that it brings. Without it, we wouldn't be alive. In the past, the tules were used as food. The fibers were used for mats, clothing, and houses. The birds were eaten. The Railroad Valley springfish that my mother calls Naisha bangui, there were so many of them that they would be caught and roasted in winnowing trays with coals and eaten. The game that comes around the water, it's an essential part of life.
Incomers to the region sought a different form of riches. The mountains of the Great Basin were veined with metals that fired the imaginations of many. White pine fever lured thousands of miners into these eastern Nevada hills in the 19th century. In 1877, the Snake Range gave up its secret. Large deposits of gold and silver were found here. These mining rushes, and others like them, created many of the towns that exist in the Great Basin today. Miners' cabins, and perhaps their dreams, are still preserved in the dry mountain air. Though the slopes of the park are no longer cut by the miner's pick, they continue to be carved, as they have been for millennia, by snowmelt. The moving water erodes the limestone, creating arches above ground and caves beneath.
The work that I do is biospeleology, which is cave biology, the study of life in caves. I really got interested in exploring caves because of the element of unknown that caves have to them. In order to find out if this small, tight little cave passage opens up into a beautiful room or maybe just pinches down into nothing, the only way to know that is to actually go there. There's some really nice stalactites up here. Still actively growing too, a lot of drips. These caves are formed from rainwater that falls from the sky. It takes on a little bit of carbon dioxide that's in the atmosphere. It becomes weak carbonic acid. And then that finds little joints and cracks in the limestone, and it has this chemical reaction where it dissolves. And it slowly enlarges these joints to make linear passages.
The Great Basin is simply that, a giant area in which rivers drain not to an ocean, but into the ground or into lakes. Much of this arid expanse was once the prehistoric Lake Bonneville. Only a few signs of it remain, including a remarkable fish. The Bonneville cutthroat trout hung on in isolated mountain streams after Lake Bonneville receded 15,000 years ago. Thought to be locally extinct by the 1930s, it was rediscovered in a remote area of Great Basin National Park.
Lately, we've been doing population estimates to find out where there's low densities and high densities, to see where we can move fish around. Just trying to get the numbers back where they were before non-native species were introduced and their numbers were reduced back in the past. And then we're moving the fish from high density areas to vacant areas.
With this help from the National Park Service, the Bonneville, once at the brink of extinction, now re-inhabit many of the streams in the park. They are thriving on their own, with a secure claim on their rightful habitat. The waters of the Bonneville's home streams also sustain livelihoods in this land of little rain.
Our ranch is a cow-calf operation. My brothers and my father and I, we work the ranch kind of as a team, and we also farm quite a bit. We raise alfalfa hay and corn and some barley. Growing up here was a lot of fun. Had a great deal of freedom. We learned to drive at a young age, tractors, trucks, ride horses. We could do what we wanted, go where we wanted, and enjoy the country. This land here is our winter range. It's public land. We have grazing permits on it. The rangeland is our livelihood. And in order to keep the rangeland from being overgrazed, you need to monitor it carefully and move the cattle and kind of keep them moving and not graze the same plants again and again. I've been flying since I was 16. In the wintertime, it's 70 miles from your north cow to your south cow, so it's a great way to keep track of things, as well as a great deal of fun. Farming and ranching isn't an easy living. It's kind of a low-profit proposition. Margins are tight, and that is good because it gives you purpose, and that's good for a person.
As the cool winds of autumn descend on the Great Basin, brilliant fall colors appear in the upper reaches of the park and slowly cascade downhill. Snow comes early to the mountains of the Great Basin. Winter's light paints the terrain with spectacular colors and textures. And winter's grasp can reach far into spring in the heights of the park. These deep snows store most of the water that reaches this arid land. As those snows finally melt, they feed springs and mountain streams that carry water down to the valley below. These waters sustain life at every elevation. Chipmunks and Clark's nutcrackers feed from a limber pine. Marmots den and raise their young on rocky hillsides. Elk browse where forest meets meadow. And young kit foxes play on the desert floor. In spring and summer, wildflowers tap moist soils to cast vivid bursts of color onto the slopes of the park. Near the very peaks of these mountains, where other plants and animals fall away, tenacious trees cling to the rock and to life.
Bristlecones live so long as 5,000 years. So if you are in the presence of them and you look around, you can see a very small one. It may be as young as 50 years old. And yet at the same time, you see dead ones who we know could be as old as 7,000 years. And you're thinking, he was young 7,000 years ago. And this one may live for 5,000 years and stand in its dead shape with its extraordinary fingers reaching to the sky for another 2,000 years. So it makes you recognize that we are only one part of an enormous cosmos that is extraordinary and mysterious.
Hands there, right down there.
And then at night, if you look up, you're looking at light years of light, back and back and back in time. So you certainly become aware of the universe, the planet, and the very small space of time in which you have to live and appreciate life.
This land is so vast that species have become isolated here over thousands of years. Some, like the magnificent Great Basin rattlesnake, exist nowhere else. Others are even more localized. The peaks of the Snake Range are the only place where Holmgren's buckwheat can be found on Earth. Climate change poses new challenges to this hardy plant. As warmer temperatures move up the mountains, unique plants and animals, precarious in their alpine niches, become threatened. Species like Holmgren's buckwheat could be pushed over the edge into extinction. Deep beneath these mountain peaks, another fragile ecosystem is still new to science.
The type of study that we do is just to answer the question, what species are here? I spend a lot of time crawling around on my hands and knees and flipping over rocks, and really hunting, looking for critters, getting down on their level. And so it makes the study of cave science really exciting. The chance that you could flip over a rock and find a new species. The Pseudo Scorpion is a major predator in the cave ecosystem. It's like a lion in the savannah. One of the neat things about Pseudo Scorpions is that they use these big pinchers to catch their prey. And when they bring them towards their mouth, they also have venom glands in their mouth parts. And so that's how they can actually subdue their prey before they eat it. Get on in there. In cave science, it's all still wide open. It's all still brand new. So you really have that feeling of exploration. It's really important to set some lands like this aside. There's an ecosystem here that's unique, very fragile, and the impact even from just a roadway development or groundwater drawdown can be major and could really threaten species that occur here and nowhere else.
I know some people feel that in the Great Basin there's a timelessness. Perhaps they mean there's no need to watch the clock, there's no sense of urgency. I think of it differently. I think of it as a flowing of time, where you become aware that the earth changes dramatically but slowly. The earth erodes, the glacier that's up at Wheeler Peak is diminishing. It's not as if time isn't here, it's just that it's geologic time, it's natural time.
The Duckwater Shoshone have ensured their future with the honoring of an ancient promise.
The Duckwater Shoshone tribe began restoration of the Big Worm Spring. It had been designed for irrigation. The sides were sloughing in, and we worked with Fish and Wildlife and many other federal and state agencies to restore the spring. Restoration means caring for the spring, making sure that it has a future. When the Shoshone people were created and put within this bioregion, all elements of the natural world around us spoke to us and basically told us, you take care of us, we'll take care of you. And if you do this, you will continue as a people and you will be strong.
The ranchers of the Snake Valley are also keeping their traditions alive.
Most of these people are volunteers, you know, neighbors helping neighbors, and they want to teach their kids to rope and wrestle a calf and teach them a good work ethic.
Good job there. That's it. Keep your hand back.
Get them to feel like they're part of a team and work with other people, and they get a great deal of self-satisfaction out of it. Roping and the horse skills and calf wrestling is all pretty traditional. They go back a long ways. We have a great deal of wildlife on the ranch, and we enjoy that. We like that. I'll grumble because the deer are hard on the fences or whatnot, but that's all right.
High above the valley, Great Basin National Park will continue to protect the essence of this country. From its most vulnerable creatures to its spectacular vistas. It will remain a refuge in which to expand one's sense of space and time.
What I want people to know about this country is that it's a wonderful place to go and escape the rest of the world. It's much like it was 100 years ago, and we hope to keep it that way.